and welcome to Doing Disasters Differently, the podcast with Renae Hanvin, which is all about inspiring you to start thinking and doing disasters a little bit differently too. In this episode, I'm talking with Fiona Jago, who is now a lived experience facilitator with Resilient Ready. And we're talking about sharing your lived experience with others. So a little bit about Fiona. She's a former dairy farmer from regional Victoria who also has experience in the construction industry and has been a small business owner for a fair few decades. A number of years ago, she and her husband, Mark, decided on a change. They purchased a caravan park in the western region of the beautiful Kangaroo Island in South Australia. They were there for a number of years, running a really successful small business and being a big part of the local community. And then they were impacted by the bushfires that hit Kangaroo Island in 2019 and 2020, which, as you can imagine, changed their world. After rebuilding for 3 years, they decided to sell and move back to regional Victoria to be with family. So I like to start with where we met. I met Fiona in 2022 when I worked with the Kangaroo Island business community over 2 years during their recovery from the bushfires. The minute I met Fiona, I was hooked. She's a passionate, smart, small business owner who is someone that every small business person needs to meet and listen to. When planning their return to Victoria, I asked Fiona what was next. Well, we're not ready to retire now, but I'm not really sure, was pretty much what she said. And then I asked if she'd be interested in sharing her lived experience with others in small business. To my absolute excitement, she said yes. And here we are today. Fiona is now a fantastic part of the Resilient Ready team, literally jumping into her caravan with Mark, of course, and traveling around the country delivering workshops or being a guest speaker to help business people just like her. If you happen to be listening to this podcast and you're in a business community resilience role or in a business community, make sure you look at the relevant page on our website for more and book Fiona to come and talk to your community too. Fiona, welcome. I love talking with you.
Thank you for having me, Renae.
Okay, now we've only got 20 minutes or so we have to keep this tight. So let's start with, in the introduction, I shared a bit about your journey as a small business person. What do you and Mark love about being in small business?
The thing that we enjoy most about being in small business is being able to make our own decisions and do it how we want to do it, not how someone else wants us to do it.
So very much around that, you're the boss, you do it your way when you want to do it and you're not working for someone else.
That's it. Yeah. Having worked for people, you could see the holes in their business, but they didn't want to hear about it. And it gets very frustrating. So if we make a mistake, it's our own problem, but you try to take those holes away as best you can.
Yeah, that's very much why I'm in small business as well. Basically because I don't know, I like doing things differently, including disasters, but also, and then I can own the approach that I take. And I think that's really important because a lot of people in small business, you're kind of good at your craft and then you're sort of accidentally in business. Like, I don't wake up every morning going, wow, I want to, sort out, staffing and I want to sort out my insurances. Like, I just want to do great programs that, build resilience. And like a caravan park owner, I'm sure you woke up and you were like, oh, I just want to serve my customers and have a great experience for them every day. Well, that's my assumption, of course. Maybe you did wake up going, woohoo, what staffing rosters can I tweak today? So as a business person, and you've typically operated in regional communities, and, I guess your caravan park on Kangaroo Island was probably more remote because it was about 70 kilometres away from the nearest town. What were the biggest challenges you faced, during disasters, running a small business in that kind of regional/remote community?
Our biggest issue was distance. We were living on site post fires, and we made that choice to be there on site to be able to protect the property. B, we had a lot of wildlife that we were still feeding post fires and looking after, but also we had the decision to get going again. We said, Easter, we're going to reopen, however that may look like, but gave us 3 months from when we could start to do any work to Easter. We said, righto, we're going to open. So our biggest issues were distance from everyone, because people didn't come our way because there's nothing left down there, was the assumption. Those who did come our way were just basically sticky noses, wanting to see the devastation and thinking it was okay to enter our property because, you know, that's what you do apparently. So they become the issues that really start to grate at you, is having that you became a tourist option in the western end of KI because there were no others. And also then when it came to recovery, getting assistance on what might seem like trivial matters at the time, but they were really important matters. For example, getting our landline back. People go, oh, but you can use mobile. Well, that's fine. You can use mobile if it works, because as soon as the power would go off, we would have no mobile. So 18 months of nagging and annoying until we found the right person who could make a decision to get a landline back, still came to us with all mobile ideas of how we could fix things. And in the end, we finally got the last 20 kilometres of that copper wire back to our property, so we had a landline. But 18 months of badgering people becomes quite tedious.
And I think so, obviously, you know, you choose to live. So,
yep,
you know,
you choose to live there.
You choose to live in the middle of nowhere in this, you know, amazingly, I love Kangaroo Island, like beautiful place. And I guess the costs associated with things, you know, deliveries and, you know, the lack of, I know there's, you know, plane issues and boat issues. So because it is an island, so getting onto, you know, that community, etc. But I think, you know, there must be so many, and I'm putting a bit of a social capital lens here, I guess, in terms of that community people connection. So being part of a remote and regional community, like you must be really close to the people nearby. So, you know, going through the bushfires and then, you know, as part of your recovery, you know, I guess it's the people as well that are very much sort of keeping you or helping you.
Our people that helped us most were our trades, because we were able to get rebuilding quite quickly, which a lot of people couldn't understand how we got to do that, but we did.
Hey, they hadn't met Fiona before.
So, because, you know, within 2 weeks, we'd made a shopping list of what our plumber and electrician needed. After we went and saw them on the day, we knew how much we'd lost and had a beer and sat down and went, right, are you ready to, having just renovated the whole property, went back to them and said, you ready to go again? Are you ready to go again? Have another beer with them, make your shopping list. So as soon as the fire was classed as being contained and we had power back on the day, we actually made that decision a month down the track to move on to site. We got power back that day. Not that we could connect and do anything, but we had power. So we were able to get going quite quickly, but it was having those relationships with the trades and even our suppliers were quite generous to us as well. Wherever we bought stuff, they were quite generous towards us. The hardware store gave us a generator, which meant we could live on site because we had power. So it's having those connections beforehand, having connection with our bank manager as well to get dispensations on paying loans. It was having a relationship with our accountant that I could shovel stuff off for him to do for us instead of me having to do all of that thing. And also being quite good friends with your telephone, because you spend all day on that as well.
And of course we need power and mobile access for those. So now I don't want to, I mean, your story is remarkable and you are delivering workshops with us. So, but I don't want this podcast to be about, your experience and your story, because I want it to be about how you're working with me. So obviously I met you when I was doing about 18 months of work with the business community on Kangaroo Island. And I was just like, wow, she's awesome. And totally, I guess, has that amazing mindset of, what your role and responsibility is as a business owner, in a location like Kangaroo Island. So I was really blown away by how, I guess, prepared and across you really understand your business and understood your business. And so then your recovery, your response and recovery was quite phenomenal, in my opinion, because you were, 10 steps ahead of the majority of other people in small business. So I think you spent about 3 years rebuilding and then relocated back to regional Victoria where your family is. And we were talking and I'm like, hey, want to come and deliver my workshops? Because again, I can't keep up with the demand at the moment. So you're now working with me as a lived experience facilitator when you and Mark, your husband, you get into your caravan and you drive around Australia and you visit communities to share your experience. What's the topic you're most asked to talk about?
I have two topics I'm asked to talk about. Everyone has the reaction of, what was my experience? And I'm always quite happy to talk about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I do with you. So I was quite clear on that to people. Don't be offended, ask any question. I'm happy to answer, because I want to do what I'm doing to help people not have to learn everything that we had to learn before, during, and after disaster or interruption, because it can be an interruption these days as well. But insurance gets everybody. Insurance freaks everybody out. I had the comment at one in Queensland was, I came along, I saw insurance, thought it was going to be boring, but hell, it was different to what I expected.
And it's kind of funny because I'm the same. So, when I got into kind of business resilience and small business community resilience, like I knew nothing about insurance and I'm like, oh, mate, like how boring, how dull. And I rang my broker and, we now have a strategy and stuff. But same as you, like when I was delivering workshops even before you came on board, and you'd go, oh, yeah, we're talking about insurance. And you could see everyone go, oh, gosh, like, where's the drink or give me something to eat. By the end of it, I have them wanting to do insurance review, like catch-ups, like a wine and policy night. It was amazing, the aha moments that we mentioned before of learning from other people. But even you use here, that person, I didn't even know they did that. Oh, can I get the number? Building the connections, just talking about, I guess, the issues and the challenges that we're facing. Insurance is it's a really good talking point and I guess potential change driver.
Absolutely. In the workshops I have presented, a lot of them with farming communities, they assume because they've got a value of insurance that that's what they'll get paid out if something happens. And when you explain to them that that is underinsured and they will get, if they're lucky, a percentage of that value, that's when you see the brains go, aha. And then you have 5 minutes of, oh, shit, what else haven't I done? What have I got to cover? What have I missed? What have I done? Oh, my goodness. And then also you explain to them how difficult underinsurance makes claiming, full stop. Again, gets them quite involved. And brokers as well. In a lot of regional areas, brokers are hard to find that are the right person. And that's what I always say. Don't just go for the first person that you talk to. Feel comfortable with them. If you don't get a good feeling, it's okay not to deal with them. Look around. And it doesn't have to be in your neighbourhood if you can't find one. From South Australia, we dealt with our broker in Victoria. We didn't go local.
And I think that's, again, it comes back to that sort of social capital and people connections component. Like, I mean, I don't know, what small business person wakes up in the morning and goes, oh, I'm going to build a relationship with my insurance provider today. Not too many, I don't think. But
I have a really good relationship with my insurance provider. We have very interesting conversations.
do you know what? Me too. Like Zoof, I give anyone his number because he's amazing, mainly because he'll also tell you or tell me if he's not the right person to help. Because I think in the notion, and I don't want this chat to be just about insurance, but I think, as a small business person, building connections with your suppliers and your insurance brokers and that is, hey, they're in business too. So, you might as well have fun along the way, which, is all why we're in business, really.
Well, that's sort of how I've always dealt with my business. If you're not having fun, why are you doing it?
Yeah, exactly. Although sometimes you got to bang your head against a brick wall just to kind of, get through some challenging times. But yeah, no, 100%.
And instead of taking insurance as being the necessary evil, make it something that you go, hang on, it's actually going to work for me, because you just never know.
Well, that's it. I mean, there are so many challenges that we're facing in today's new era of, natural hazards and other types of disruptions. I mean, we're getting bombarded left, right, and center by, impacts big and small. Now, I just want to say at this point, because we have talked a little bit about insurance, that we are, just to be very clear, you and I are not qualified insurance experts. We are only small business people with lived experience of running a business. And I think the thing for me too is that I often use the analogy of, when it comes to insurance, it is kind of complex for small businesses, and it kind of needs to be. And if you think about it, like I was mentioning before, like, I wouldn't cut my own hair because, oh my gosh, I wouldn't be able to leave the house for a very long time. So, your hairdresser is a small business person who's an expert in that space. So if you're looking at components of your business that is a bit complex, like insurance, like go to an expert. So either find a retailer, but obviously if you want a bit more personal help, I know there are agents, and find a broker. So there's the Insurance Council of Australia or the National Insurance Brokers Association that can help you find a broker, and ask people around you in small business who they use, because getting that, absolute help is really quite critical.
And talk to similar businesses to you as well, because they might have something covered that you haven't even thought of, and vice versa.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I learn something from you every day. What did I learn? Today I learned about you need to include in your business replacement insurance cleanup. Like I think you were mentioning that about 80 grand, you had a cleanup cost of about 80 grand or something that I think in this situation the government covered, but as we know, the government can't, save us all. So, who'd have thought about adding an extra 50, 60, 80 grand to clean up? Like
throw a bit of asbestos in there, everything just adds zeros.
Yeah, no, let's not throw asbestos in, but I guess we don't know where that is until it's too late either.
That's it.
So do you reckon, last question about insurance, because let's be honest, it's probably getting a bit boring for some. Do you reckon you and I can actually make like insurance and small businesses kind of mainstream or the thing? Like from a small business perspective, like what I'm really trying to do is make, the notion of insurance and how you can afford insurance and what you need to insurance just part of everyday people in small business, like that's just what they know and that's what they do. Like I know it's so dull and boring, but I've got this like mission to do it. Should we do it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because everyone you talk to about insurance, at the end of the day, they go, oh, that was really cool. It wasn't boring.
Yeah.
So the more people you talk to, the better it is.
And you don't know what you don't know. And so my problem at the moment too is we need to have the same conversations at the government level, because having more business people take up insurance because they can afford it or because they're getting the right amounts and the right types is good for government as well. But we need to change the mindset and the government side of the fence as to the value of helping small business people think differently and do differently when it comes to insurance.
And have the value in the small business, not just from an employment part of the coin, but how they economically help whole communities. And getting that into the government is a big thing as well.
So true. And as you know, the work we're doing and with Professor Daniel Aldrich. And obviously, when we were working with the Kangaroo Island community, Daniel came to Kangaroo Island and he came all the way to your rebuilding of the caravan park, and had a fantastic walk around to hear your lived experience of everything from, your engagement with emergency services to the rebuild to, everything from telco, who you were connected in and whatever. And it was very, very clear, and I use it, and we use it at Resine Ready, obviously with your blessing and involvement, that, when we think about social connections, social capital, so people connections, obviously you are an extraordinary connector. But if you think about the social infrastructure side as well, so the places where people connect, on the western side of Kangaroo Island, basically the only place to connect was the caravan park.
That was all that was left to connect with, yeah.
So small, before the disaster as well. So the places like caravan parks and pubs and libraries, like these social infrastructure places, really, really are critical before, but also during and after the disasters.
Absolutely. You become the mental health people without even knowing that's what you've become. You become that people come and ask you, how come you've been able to do something? So you're sharing how that has changed as well, so that you can help others move forward too, because getting people back around you is absolutely, it becomes a big part of your own mental health as well as, yes, you're going ahead, but you need people around you and have those conversations. We got very good at having lots of conversations with tradies, not just our own, but everyone else's as well.
Who wouldn't want to have a conversation with you and Mark, Fiona?
I was mum to some of them.
Oh, yeah. But I think too, in the notion of, again, the role of small businesses in communities. So, and you've got so much lived experience in this space, but it's, there's economic contribution to communities because it's, they employ people, you're bringing money into the region and bringing, people into the region, you're selling products and services, some of them as essential. I know in your rebuild of the caravan park, the petrol station was not rebuilding. So you took on as I'd say, partly a business decision. Obviously, you wouldn't want to lose money in it, but more so probably a social
It was more a social requirement for everyone expects there to be a fuel station around the corner now.
Amazing. And there wasn't going to be, but you took it on in your business operations. And I mean, you probably didn't wake up one morning and go, oh, I'm going to be a petrol station owner. But that
not with what I know now.
Well, I know the community is very, very grateful for you in that sense. So in terms of the workshops that we're delivering, and I know you've been doing them in Queensland, and in fact, they're inviting you back, and we've got lots coming up around, we've done lots around New South Wales and Victoria and whatnot. What are the main questions in terms of your lived experience that people want to know?
People want to know what made us decide to rebuild.
Yep.
Is a big one. They go around about how they're going to ask it, but that's generally what made us build back again. And we had two reasons. One, it was our superannuation policy. Our second reason was, three reasons actually. The second reason was we had too much to walk away from. We had something left. And three, I don't like to walk away.
Yeah.
Basically. And so that's why we set ourselves the goal of we would be open for Easter. Nice. Waste of time because COVID hit, but anyhow, that's another story.
Yeah.
So you have to give yourself goals, which is what we did. My 2IC sometimes wasn't overly enthusiastic, but we got him there eventually.
But you're such a doer, Fiona. You're such a doer. And Mark comes along on the journey because it's going to be a fun one. So can I ask you, though, on that point, so again, talking about, sharing your lived experience with others, again, disasters and disruptions impact people in many different ways. So, what might be right for you is not right for everyone. So I don't want to, I guess, have this podcast with people going, oh, that's the right way to ask people that have been, impacted, because there's not always one right way to ask people. But how, like, what from your experience, like, what did you like? What are you happy about people asking you, or do you prefer them just to ask what they're really wanting, or to kind of gently go, around the sides and sort of,
Well, we learnt there's two types of people. There's the people that are genuinely interested, and then there's the people who think they just need to say something. If you're a person who just thinks you need to say something, don't say it, because it comes out a little bit wrong. And that is one of the most mental affecting responses you get.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people who come through and say, oh, you didn't get burnt. And you're like, have a look, everything's new. And so that when people have that response, and we've been to a lot of other bushfire affected areas since we've left KI, and we don't mention it. You can see that you get worn down by it. After 3 or 4 years, you've moved on.
Yep.
People might not have, but we've moved on. And it keeps dragging you back it's a different thing if they come and ask. It's great to see that you've rebuilt. Hope it went okay. Things like that. That's great. You've noticed that actually everything is new.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just go, because I worked really hard for 3 years to rebuild everything. I didn't want in 3 years' time to go, oh, you didn't get burnt.
Yeah, no.
Because it's a real kick in the guts when you're sitting there trying to smile at people, going, just have a little look around.
I just want to flick you in the head with a lacquer band.
Exactly. Can I jump the counter and slap you?
It is, yeah. And I think too, again, a lot of people come into, communities post disruptions, and it's about them more than it's about the people who've experienced it.
Yeah.
I want to just mention quickly too, because you've been delivering, we've been working with the ORCRA, which is the Omeo region's community recovery group, but they are in the process of reforming into something different, which is very exciting. And when we got this project, it was to go out and talk to 6 communities or 6 towns in the Omeo region in beautiful Victoria. And as soon as we got this project, I'm like, Fiona is going, because I obviously have a lot of experience and I can go and chat, and, I've been impacted by different types of disasters and disruptions, of course, but, sending you in, how good have those conversations been, where you've had other community people who've had their own impacts, and you can just connect on that, very alike level.
Absolutely. It's being able to I always, whenever I present to a group like that, I always say, well, Omeo being a mainly farming community, I mentioned that I've been a farmer, born and bred farmer, been in business, also been affected by the fires and how we've come through it, so that they know I'm not going in there to tell them how to suck eggs, basically. And that's when the conversations start, and had some amazing conversations at Benambra that was quite touching, actually, what I got told at Benambra by people who have been through more than one disaster. They just keep repeating, unfortunately, in that area, and finding out the changes over the years, how communication becomes less the more we move forward in time.
Yeah. From
outside entities. It's been quite amazing to hear that, how things used to work to how things work now. And it also shows how tight-knit communities like that really come together and stick together and keep doing so.
Yeah, and I think that, again, sharing lived experience, and I know there's a lot of work going on at the moment with different universities and whatnot about that kind of recovery sort of focus, and capturing, the knowledge and learnings. And I know oh gosh, every time I go into a few meetings with certain types of people in government and academia, I'm like, Fiona's coming. They're like, we need Fiona. And again, really excited about the strategic work that we're going to be doing together at Resilient Ready. Also about the social capital mapping work that we're doing, which again is open for other communities if they want to do. And again, these workshops that we're delivering for the business communities. Fiona, I could talk to you all day, but I always finished with my final question. What would be the two things you'd like to be done differently in the disaster space?
The two things I'd like to be done differently in the disaster space is communication. Communication is a big one. And
what do you mean by communication? What do you mean?
Communication through prior and post disaster. And don't make us that emergency services, community groups, everyone who comes to assist doesn't assume that you will always be on their doorstep.
Got it. Yep.
Because where we were, it was too hard. So if we had had a bit more communication coming into us rather than us having to look for it, would have been amazing.
Yeah. So probably communications and engagement there. So having a two-way kind of relationship in that sense. Yeah. Great. And number two?
Respect.
Oh, what do you mean?
Respect from that everyone respects each other, no matter whether you're the top politician or the bottom person in the community rungs. If you've got that feeling, respect each other.
That's so, I think it's an interesting answer, actually, not what I was expecting from you. But I think you are summing up quite a key. Oh my God, we might need another podcast.
It's a whole different.
I think you're summing up a kind of a notion of the shared responsibility issue that I've always had a bit of a concern with, in the sense that we all have a role to play, and in fact, it shouldn't be a power play or a. It's an interesting. We might have to come back to that one. But
it's having that respect that everyone has their own story to tell. Not everyone's story is different, and respect that difference, because a cookie cutter approach doesn't fix all.
Yeah, well, that's very, very true. Clearly, another podcast has to be had.
Sorry, that was a bit deep, wasn't it?
Very deep. Yeah, deep for our normal conversations. Now I'm going to be thinking about that. Fiona, a massive thank you to Fiona Jago, who's now a lived experience facilitator with Resilient Ready, blah, 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 blah. And we've been talking about sharing your lived experience with others. Thanks so much, Fiona. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure. Anytime.
I hope today's episode of Doing Disasters Differently, the podcast, has inspired you to think a little bit differently about the role you can play before, during, and after disasters. Given the new era of more frequent and compounding disasters that we are now in, let's work together to build an all-hazards disaster resilient future for all. Find out more about the work I'm leading as a social enterprise building disaster resilience at resilientready.org. Don't forget to subscribe to Doing Disasters Differently, the podcast, through your preferred platform. And we'll see you next time when we discover new ways of doing disasters differently together.